Okay, so we are going to be reviewing a Tommy Robinson video where he discusses Islam with a Muslim British girl and talks about the mistreatment of women in the Quran according to Sharia law. If you don't know who Tommy Robinson is, I suggest you check a quick ChatGPT or Google search. He, I would say, is the equivalent to what Charlie Kirk was in the States, but in the United Kingdom. I met him myself. He was on my podcast. You can type Tommy Robinson into my podcast and you'll find it. I went to his Unite the Kingdom rally and was backstage where he had about 3 million people. It was the biggest rally in English history. So I highly suggest you check out the episode. It's a great episode. And of course, Rafi the Realtor for all of your real estate needs. Check me out on Instagram. Would love to be of assistance. And it would mean the world to me if you would donate and support my channel via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description or the pinned comment. Let's get right to it.
Those who cause mischief in the lands, which is what Lee Rigby's killer, when he killed Lee Rigby, he held up 55 verses from the Quran. He gave them to a woman, yeah? And he said, these are the verses that forced me to do it. Now, those verses spoke about causing mischief. Now, he said that Lee Rigby caused mischief. Do you think I hate you?
No, I don't think you hate me.
No.
I just think you're misinformed.
Okay.
And you have misinterpreted, well, not misinterpreted.
How often do we pledge allegiance to things we don't fully understand? It happens a lot of times in business, in relationships, and especially in religion. Many of us pledge a blind faith on what we think are the dictates of true religion, but the moment a Muslim student came in contact with Tommy Robinson, she realized how shaky her foundation really has been all these years.
The first thing that we're taught from the mosques as well is that everyone has different interpretations of the Quran, and that any translation to any language will never be literal, because it can never be translated from one language to another. That's how language works. So
does that mean there's no true interpretation? Not
exactly, there is no true interpretation.
Before we even touch the heavy parts of the argument, it helps to understand who is walking into this conversation and how they think. On one side, there is an insistence on going straight to the classical sources, the tafsir, the verses that influence centuries of Islamic law. And on the other side, there's a focus on intention, and the idea that every believer carries their own lens and their own translation. Two completely different worlds meeting in one argument.
Says
but that's what I'm saying.
Men own
Not
women.
everything is a literal translation. It's depending on interpretation. Just how when he researched something up, it didn't say exactly what I've got here. They're written in different ways, and every single language, it's
What's
an old
what's
traditional
532?
532?
Yeah.
And this matters because in our time, the line between peaceful believers and political ideologies keeps getting blurred. It matters because when violence happens in the name of faith, the world argues over whether the cause was a scripture or a society. And it matters because if we cannot agree on whether a text has an anchor, a center, a stable meaning, then how do we ever hold anyone accountable for the ideas they pull out of it?
Who would not report that? Imagine what that's so from. And in fact, it should be like it for yourself, because even in your
And that is an issue, and that is something that we need working on. And it's similar. It's similar to rape culture.
Then
where,
if you take verses from this book,
yeah,
it says that you cannot side with the non-Muslim over the Muslim. Yeah, there's certain verses in here which I try and make sense of all of it.
I understand why some people lean toward that softer approach. It feels safer, more humane. But I can't shake the feeling that a book meant to guide billions cannot survive without some stable ground under it.
when we're taught in Islam, there are different types of Muslims. Everything is based on your intention. That's the fundamental rule of Islam. It's called a niyat. So
Say what? So I just stood up and I'm getting in an argument with some young lads, and I said to them, okay, they said it doesn't say in the Quran to beat your wife, yeah? And I said, but I've read it does. Yeah?
So when
You've got the Quran there. Can we have a look at it?
If they can do it to me, they can do it to animals.
See Ibn Kathir.
So we have to say
Sorry?
See Ibn Kathir.
Yeah.
The mention of Ibn Kathir carries such weight. He is one medieval scholar that many have tried using to dictate modern life, but of course he represents something much more than that, the mainstream heritage of interpretation in Sunni Islam.
I'll tell you something now about him, yeah, with what he says. Okay?
See, this is a new book I've got.
Okay,
I'm still learning.
Okay, so Ibn Kathir is one of the most recognised, as you'll agree, one of the most renowned Saudi scholars, yeah?
I can't comment on that. I don't know anything about.
Okay. Well, what he says that the word mischief, yeah? His interpretation of what mischief means is not believing in Allah. Yeah? Now, if you take
That's his interpretation.
Okay, but he's very recognised, yeah? So if he believes that mischief means not believing in Allah, yeah? Then those who...
Ibn Kathir's works didn't survive centuries by accident. They are printed, sold, studied, and taught across the world, not in underground cells, but in ordinary bookshops, community mosques, and university syllabuses.
Which is what Lee Rigby's killer, when he killed Lee Rigby, he held up 55 verses from the Quran. He gave them to a woman, yeah? And he said, these are the verses that forced me to do it. Now, those verses spoke about causing mischief. Now, he said that Lee Rigby caused mischief in Muslim lands, yeah? Which I'd agree, like any British army going into a Muslim country, I'm against the British army going into those countries. But according to him, yeah, being a non-Muslim means you can be killed. That's what mischief means. And that's his. I know you talk about interpretation, but the actual person you've got there, that's what he says.
See, but that's what I'm saying. That's his interpretation. No,
He's recognised. He's one of the most recognised followed, Ibn Kathir.
But just like that, you're one of the most recognised British nationals.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that's something that you will interpret within the fundamentals of fundamentalism of British.
If what he says wasn't right, yeah, or Muslims had a problem with it, you wouldn't have it here, it'd be buying it. It wouldn't be for sale in all the Muslim bookshops across this country. Mosques wouldn't be promoting it, which they are. Yeah. His interpretation of mischief is being non-Muslim, which means, as a non-Muslim, you can be killed. That's what it means. Can we go back to that verse?
Before we circle back to what she said about that topic that got everyone around screaming, let's look at her idea of male dominance.
Just so we can see, because that's what...
See, and obviously the way that you've read it, it's translated differently.
So let me read it. Yeah. Men are in charge of women because Allah has made one of them excel the other. So men are better than women. But men are in charge of women because they spend on their property. So good women...
for the support of women.
So good women are obedient, guarding in secret with which Allah is God. As for those for whom you fear rebellion, so women who are not doing as they're told,
rebellion doesn't mean not doing.
Okay, admonish them and banish them to beds apart and scourge them. What does scourge them mean in your interpretation?
You see, the discussion about marital conflict and separation is delicate and often uncomfortable. I know many modern Muslims reject any violent connotation, offering symbolic or emotional readings instead.
Scourge, that's what I mean. Interpretation. Scourge can be, don't treat them as well, as in, don't give them the goodness, don't give them anything to benefit from. But that's my interpretation. Someone else.
Say if I show you now, there's video. Say for example, do you know Abdul Rahim Green? Do you know a charity called IRA?
Aaron, no, I don't.
A big Islamic charity.
Okay.
He's on video, many of them are. And the argument they have is that when they're talking about beating your wife, they say it's with a miswak. They say it's with a miswak.
Okay.
Then you go to the hadith where it says with a miswak. But what I'm saying is when I'm talking to Muslims, say, well, it says you can beat your wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can go online now and Google many Qurans.
That's what.
You've got
when I'm learning it myself, people have different interpretations.
Let me show you first. So I asked, does it say in the Quran, if you kill one man, you kill all of humanity?
Yeah.
Is that? We go to 532. Is that where it says it?
532. I can't say where it is. Surah Al-Baqarah.
I'll show you.
Surah Al-Fatiha.
The same thing happens with the phrase mischief in the land. People quote the verse about saving a life as though it stands alone, but the very next line speaks of severe punishments for those who commit corruption. And again, classical tafsir often identifies disbelief as one form of that corruption. Maybe that feels outdated. Maybe it needs reinterpretation. But pretending the classical sources never said it only clouds the discussion. I don't think anyone wins when we pretend the texts say nothing difficult.
Do you think I hate you?
No, I don't think you hate me. I just think you're misinformed. Okay. And you have misinterpretation. Well, not misinterpretation, different interpretations of the Quran, just as so many do.
But did you live in
just like I have a different interpretation of the Bible, which is why I don't believe in the Bible.
Can I just show you what the meaning of scourge is? Yeah? Whip used as an instrument of punishment.
Scourge. That's when the definition of the word. You can understand why this...
But then it can also be causing suffering. Suffering can be,
So
doesn't
why
have
would
to
you
be
want-
physical.
Why,
It can
why
be.
would you want the why would
And I suppose the hardest part is when we think about extremists, not in a way that associates ordinary Muslims with them, but in a way that shows even the extremists themselves insist they are following the classical text. They don't write their own verses.
if they weren't going to be obedient?
Basically, what that verse says
But
is
that's what I'm saying.
men own
Not
women.
everything is a literal translation. It's depending on interpretation. Just how when he researched something up, it didn't say exactly what I've got here. They're written in different ways, and every single language. It's
What's
an old
what's 532?
532.
Because we hear regularly quoted.
532. For that cause we decree
Just creed
for
of the children.
of Israel,
Whoever
that
kills a
whoever
human
being, for other than murder or corruption in the earth, it shall be as if he had killed all mankind. Who saves the life of one, it shall be as our messengers came unto the world with clear
So
proofs.
proofs of Allah. So what's five? So you read that, yeah, and that sounds
Yeah.
great, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Right? Now read 530. Now read the next verse. The only reward for those who make war upon Allah and His Messenger and strive after corruption in the land. So corruption is mischief. Yeah. Now this man here.
Yeah.
Right. Keep reading. So corruption is mischief. Will be that they will be killed and crucified, or have their hands and feet, alternative sides, cut off, or they will be expelled out of the land. Yeah.
You see, this is why interpretation cannot be treated like a mood or a personal preference. Lives have been taken with verses held in the air. People have claimed divine permission for their violence.
If you kill a man, you kill all of humanity, unless they cause mischief, and then you can kill them, murder them, butcher them, expel them, and
This is a very addictive video because there's so many thoughts running through my head. I'm not the kind of person that looks at Islam and says, this is the only one of the three Abrahamic religions which is violent. I acknowledge that Christianity and Judaism have components that talk about violence. But the key difference is that Judaism and Christianity went through a reformation process. The overwhelming majority of both Jews and Christians, even if they acknowledge that there may be violent or distasteful or even racist components in both of those religions, to the I guess you could say not major extent, but the overwhelming majority of people who believe in both religions denounce violence of any kind, even connected to the religion. Whereas in Islam, even if you want to make the argument that the majority of Muslims are supposedly moderate and don't condone violence of any kind, even connected to religion, to Islam, even if it's supposedly commanded, the the minority still makes up millions of people. You have a population over a billion Muslims. That means that at the very minimum, tens, if not hundreds of millions of Muslims are either willing to take on violent action in the service of commandment, or they support the people who are doing so. And you wouldn't have hundreds of Islamic terrorist groups if this wasn't the case. You wouldn't have so many countries where the doctrine is anti-Western, anti-Christian, anti-Jewish. Uh, it's a huge problem. And I think the reason why Islam and the West have such a hard time getting along is because Muslims have not gone through a reformation process which says we are no longer looking for violence. And I think symbolically, I think spiritually, Islam exists in the world because it's meant to strengthen Christianity and Judaism. I think it's meant to keep people in line to an extent. The violence that comes out of Islam is meant to course correct, especially the Jewish people. So I don't think it exists on accident. I think, as someone who believes in God, I think it's meant to teach us a lesson. And instead of trying to fight Islam in the sense that we're expecting to change it, we should acknowledge it for what it is. Obviously, try to be peaceful with the ones who want peace, but understand that the ones who don't want peace mean what they say and say what they mean, and we should take them at their word. Um, this young lady might have good intentions, but she probably doesn't know a whole lot about her religion. She has confirmation bias, like I would say the majority of people do, including myself. And she grew up Muslim, and that's what she supports. If she grew up in any other religion, she'd almost certainly be following that religion. She doesn't believe in the Bible because her parents didn't believe in the Bible, and their parents and their parents and their parents. Because if I was born a Muslim, I'd probably still be one. Could be a chance I would have converted to some other religion, but in a balance of probabilities, if you're born into a certain religion, nationality, race, color, creed, what have you, you're usually going to stick with that because that's what humans do. Humans do what's comfortable for them. Humans don't like change very much. We're used to routine, and we tend to stick to our routine. Let's get back to it.
And actually, this book, which is just insane that you're holding it, it's actually him who gives you, and I can show you that now, him that gives you the interpretation of what mischief and corruption is. And he specifically says mischief and corruption means not believing in Allah. I don't believe in Allah. So am I causing... So according to that there, I can be killed.
It's interesting when Tommy says this, though, because technically Allah is just another way to say God. He doesn't believe in Islam's version of Allah, which is probably what he meant. But technically, anyone who believes in the three Abrahamic faiths believes in the same God because there's only one. But we just understand his way of ruling the world and what he wants from us differently. It's all that is where religion. That's where, if you want to talk about interpretation, that's where religion comes into play. You know, I love being a Jew and I like Judaism, but there are many components of religion that I see as nonsensical. I think religion, to a massive degree, is meant to control people, to get leaders. Same way with countries. Human beings are herd animals. We're tribal creatures, just like other mammals are. And many moons ago, people understood that in order to get people to cooperate and do what you want, you need to create, to some extent, a cult. And although religions can have beautiful components to them, they are in effect a cult. I mean, you know, not all bad, not all good, but if you really look at the definition of a cult, that is to a large extent what religion is. And I say that as someone that likes being a Jew and respects Judaism, as I respect other religions. Islam I have a big problem with because it hasn't reformed, and it's not very tolerant. In some countries more than others for sure, and there are definitely some Muslims that are very tolerant, but the religion in and of itself at face value is not. Judaism, on the other hand, naturally is a more tolerant religion. It gives more respect to women. It puts women on pedestals much of the time. Uh, in regards to marital laws, a man must say yes to his woman if she wants sex. Anything she wants goes. It's really up to her. We acknowledge that she makes the home. We acknowledge that she's higher than men, than women are higher than men are spiritually, which is why they require less commandments and laws. That's why they don't put on tefillin or phylacteries. So, in many regards, Judaism holds women to we see women as higher than we are. That's the interesting thing. Whereas Islam doesn't see it that way at all.
Now you're not taking that, yeah? That's great, yeah? You're not taking, and in fact, majority of Muslims are not taking that. But Lee Rigby's killer did, yeah? He specifically told us why he done it, yeah?
Yeah.
Same as Salman Abedi, same as all these people. Now, actually, not just one or two, we're talking about hundreds and thousands.
Listening to the student's position, you can feel the sincerity in it. And her first point rests entirely on that. Interpretation is always subjective. Translation will always shift meaning. No scripture, she believes, can ever be captured perfectly in another language. And part of me understands this.
Have gone out and fought for ISIS.
Yeah.
They're taking a different interpretation of that. So am I wrong, yeah, to read this? And I'll research all of it. I've read that. I've read Ibn Ishaq's biography of Muhammad.
Yeah.
I've sat and read and studied all of it. And I'm coming to the conclusion that, hold on, even if you don't take it like that, yeah, there's still a massive problem here. A massive problem that we need to stop, from my point of view. I'm looking at it thinking, this is scary, yeah? We've got books that are telling people to kill people. I'll show you now, yeah, Ibn Ishaq. Because...
Could I just button?
See, Tommy is very misunderstood. A lot of people try to paint him as a racist, and maybe he is to some extent. I think most human beings, if they're being honest, have some level of racism because we recognize patterns, we make judgments, we do this for our survival. So to say that nobody's racist at all whatsoever, I don't know. I think a good portion of human beings, they don't like to coin themselves as racist because the term racist has such a bad connotation, and I definitely don't think that that should be our default setting. We should always try to judge people as little as possible, if not at all. Uh, but Tamiya is very empathetic in the sense where he doesn't think she's a bad person. I think he sees her as well intentioned. But what he's trying to bring home to her is you might not be ill intentioned, but the book that you're following, objectively speaking, has some very, very negative teachings. And so there are many, many other Muslims that do take those teachings in a violent manner, and they're willing to act on that violence. And that's the issue that we can't ignore.
How you're saying mischief. Here it says
Corruption.
make war upon Allah after corruption.
Corruption. So look,
after corruption in the land.
Yeah, and it is. So basically.
But then again,
We often find ourselves wondering whether this softness, beautiful as it is, ends up dissolving the very authority she's trying to protect.
and corruption, it's still, again, it's not, there is nothing literally saying this is corruption, this is
Yeah,
war.
can you come around here? Is that right?
Sorry.
I'll show you now. Look. The meaning of mischief. Yeah. The
Yeah.
meaning of mischief. Now, if we go to this. This is his tafsir.
Yeah.
And he is the one the most recognised, which is probably why you're reading it. One of the most recognised across the world. Yeah. Now, in this tafsir, the meaning of mischief. When it says to them, "Do not make mischief on the earth," they say we are angels for their ignorance. Do not make mischief on the earth. This meaning impacts in disobedience. But this belief, I disbelieve. You understand why I sort of don't accept.
No, I don't know why you would fear it.
Some of these lads are getting they're young, but the reality is there's genuine. It's not like I haven't researched and found these issues, and I'm like, hold on. And it's not like if Lee Rigby's killer hadn't done that, if we hadn't seen all this terrorism, it's not like I'm just picking fault. I'm looking. When Lee Rigby's killer done that, he gave a woman 55 verses, and I watched him in court, and I spoke to his brother, who's a convert as well, after the case, because his argument.
I sense the instinct behind her objections. Nobody wants their holy book tied to harm. It's a protective reflex, especially in front of someone already suspicious of the text. But there might be a cost to constantly reimagining literal terms into figurative ones.
When Lee Rigby's killer done that, he gave a woman 55 verses, and I watched him in court, and I spoke to his brother, who's a convert as well, after the case, because his argument, when he got told the judge said words to him like you're betraying Islam, and he lost a head, because in his head, he's following that to the word, and what he's done is just because Lee Rigby went and caused mischief. So he sees himself as he's fighting a fight, and he's a soldier. That's how he viewed it. As the 2,000 Muslims that went to fight for Syria, that's how they view it. As all of these men are viewing it. So my point is, we need to stop this, and to stop it, we need to understand this. And as soon as I try and talk about this or Muhammad, people go mad.
People do go mad, but one thing as well, when you're trying to stop something like that, you got to look at statistics on what are the common, not just within Islamic extremism, with terrorism overall, what are the most common
reasons for it? What do you mean?
Not reasons, what are the most common factors you see with these people? Most people are young men who are from vulnerable and deprived backgrounds. That does not mean.
The two men who drove the car into Glasgow Airport were doctors.
They were doctors.
Many of the people have been highly educated and highly wealthy.
Exactly, they have been. But most have come from these backgrounds. Then you've got to find out what is getting in.
She insists that extremism comes from deprivation, trauma, and emotional vulnerability. And I agree that radicalization often finds its foothold in pain. But I've also seen extremists who were doctors, engineers, middle class, educated, stable. Men who had every advantage and still chose violence. And that reminds me that poverty might open the door, but ideology decides who walks through it. Reducing extremism to deprivation alone feels like comforting half-truth.
That is so true. Very true. Osama bin Laden came from a very wealthy family, and there are many others like him. It's easier to recruit people from disenfranchised backgrounds, poor backgrounds, difficult backgrounds, absolutely, because they have less to lose, if anything. But to argue that only those people are committing terrorism is simply void of facts. It's void of reality.
These people who are being deprived, they don't have resources to fix the problems that they're dealing with when they're in these vulnerable situations.
And this is where Tommy's steady and almost blunt logic, does something powerful.
How come loads of non-Muslim, say like little young black youth who are from the most deprived backgrounds in the country, the most abused, the most targeted by police and all these things, how come they're not blowing anyone up?
That's the thing. It doesn't all lead to extremism. It will lead to different sorts of...
That black guy who's standing right next to this girl is going, shit. You can see it on his face. The way he's biting his lip, he's going, oh shit, he makes a good point. Jews have been the most persecuted people on the planet. We don't resort to things like this. We don't. We do the opposite. We come to countries and we excel. And that's what really angers people is you can strip us of everything. We'll still come and we will create, invent, and excel, despite all the challenges. Make that make sense. It really doesn't because we defy all of the odds. But that also completely destroys her argument.
Of criminal activity and different sorts of...
I'm saying it's this. That's what
You're saying it's this.
I'm
saying it's...
No, I'm not saying it's this.
This guy with the do-rag is really having a eureka moment. He's going, holy shit. Like he's really paying attention to what Tommy's saying now after what he just said.
All the men that do it say it's this. All the men that go and commit acts of terrorism say it's this. They say it's Mohammed. So I'm simply saying, okay, we have 22,000 British in Britain. We have 22,000 Muslims on a watch list, on a terror watch list. That's a small army. Yeah?
Without raising his voice, he exposes the contradiction. If the book comes from God, then the message cannot be guesswork. Throughout all of this, what struck me was how the students' arguments relied on emotion, intention, and personal meaning, while Tommy kept returning to text, context, tradition, and logic.
My guy Tommy repping the Duvdevan t-shirt, baby. Come on now. Duvdevan is an Israeli Special Forces unit. So in the previous slide, he was wearing that shirt. During his visit to Israel, he met with some Duvdevan soldiers. I had the pleasure of connecting him with Tal Or and the Traveling Klat. He's one of the biggest pro-Israel content creators, so check him out on YouTube. But yeah, Tommy had a very, very nice and productive trip in Israel, maybe a year ago or so.
1, 2, 5, 6.
Being on a watch list doesn't mean you're guilty of being a terrorist.
No, it doesn't. But say the 3,000 watch list, the top 3,000 people on that watch list, the most at threat, the most risk. Yeah. The last 4 terrorist attacks weren't even from people in the top 3,000. They're from people who weren't even being watched outside of that.
Exactly, which shows that there's a fault in the way that we're dealing with it.
It shows there's too many.
It shows that there is a fault in how we're dealing with it currently. And I personally know people who are getting involved in dealing with terrorism and are helping the government. Obviously, I can't say who they are.
And even whenever. So understand where we come from. Even in, say, like the Pew... what's his name, McDonald, who used to be the head of diversity, who done What Do British Muslims Really Think, the Channel 4 documentary. Did you watch it?
No, I didn't.
66% of British Muslims said they would not report on another Muslim who was getting involved with ISIS. It's a lot. 66%. There's 2 million Muslims in this country who would not report. Imagine what that's... And in fact, it should be like it for yourself, because even in your...
And that is an issue, and that is something that we need working on. It's similar to rape culture.
Then if you take verses from this book, it says that you cannot side with the non-Muslim over the Muslim, yeah? There's certain verses in here which I try and make sense of all of it. Why won't they report on terrorism? Well, because then they're kafar.
But then it also kind of counteracts with where if you're helping one human, it's like you've helped the whole of humanity. That doesn't exclude anyone who's non-Muslim.
Yeah, but the next verse does, doesn't it? 533 does.
But then again, that comes back to interpretation, because that's talking about war and people who are corrupt.
His interpretation.
That's his interpretation. But that doesn't mean that's
one of the most recognised in the world. If it wasn't recognised, if that was a front...
I know nothing about him. That's the thing. I'm not picking this because of him. I'm picking this because...
Let me see. Why are you picking this?
Because I want to learn. I want to see what's going on.
Right, folks. So that wraps up the Tommy Robinson conversation with this young Muslim girl in England. Would love to get your feedback in the comments. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Follow me at Rafi the Realtor for all of your South Florida real estate needs. And you can support the channel in the Buy Me a Coffee link, which you can find in the description of the pinned comment. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. I hope you'll tune into the next one. Until next time, peace out.